Hi, my name is Ethar Hamid, and I'm a student in this class for the fall 2025 semester, and um, I have some answers written here for the three prompt questions. And so here we go for the first question that's asked. It says, what comes to mind when you think of the phrase craft? So, when I think of the word or the phrase craft, I tend to think of how a piece of writing is written, and I think about the conscious choices that a writer makes while writing, and I think about sort of formal elements of writing, elements like setting, tone, and mood of the writing piece, the plot or like the storyline, and the word choice, and stuff like that. So like formal elements of writing, and sort of like the conscious choices that a writer makes, and how the piece is written overall. I know this might be kind of vague and stuff, but this is sort of like the general idea of what I think of when I think of craft. Okay, and the second question is asking, what is something that you've learned about writing craft that has stuck with you from another course or another course in this program? So, this is my first course in the program, but just to refer back to like prior writing classes from undergrad. So something I have learned about craft that stood out to me from previous classes from before. One thing that stood out is that craft is just as important as the actual content of the piece, and so I think a lot of people agree that that the way a piece of writing is written is just as important as what is actually being said. And so again, like, I guess it goes back to sort of like the stylistic choices that the writer makes, and sort of the way they tell the story. So I feel that the sort of like way and the hows and whys of how they're telling the story and the way they're getting their points across is like just as important as the actual ideas in the piece and the actual like content and concepts behind the piece of writing. And finally, the last question is asking, what's one thing that you hope to learn about poetry craft in this course? And so what I wrote here is regarding line breaks. I mean, I had kind of like a tough time sort of choosing one thing that I'd like to learn about poetry or about craft in poetry writing, but I ended up discussing and like thinking about line breaks in poetry writing. So I'd like to learn a little bit about like line breaks and like how to use them in the best way in my own writings, or like how to use line breaks optimally while sort of crafting a poem, and while jotting down a poem, while working on a poem. And I sort of am familiar a little bit with line breaks already, but I just like to learn. It would be great to learn um, about them a bit more and just like how exactly to use them and stuff like that. Because I see them all the time in poetry writing, um, but I'm a little bit like self-conscious uh, about them. Um, because I just I haven't figured out the right way to use it yet, and what the actual purpose of line breaks is, sort of, and what they're used for, and why we even use line breaks and like verse in poetry writing, like why we break the poem into lines. I think I just need some more insight maybe into that. Maybe like I could learn a little bit more about that, if possible. Uh, Thank you so much. Bye. Thank you for listening. Bye bye. Again, this is Ethar Ahmed. Bye.